everyone. So this afternoon I'll be doing some more food preserving here in the kitchen. Thought I'd show you what I'm up to. I just returned from the most amazing little tea party. My cousin Susie and her daughter Nicole invited me to the most amazing tea party. I'll throw some footage of it on here. I know you guys like this sort of thing. Isn't it just so pretty? The birds were singing and the curtains were billowing in the breeze. So now I'm back home and I'm ready to can some green beans. I ended up buying some in a local market. I didn't get enough in our garden this year. We just had enough to eat fresh. And I also have a box of blueberries I want to do something with. Follow along as I work here in the kitchen and enjoy. So I got these green beans at German Village Market in Berlin, and they look really nice and fresh. Basically just wash them and cut off the ends, or the one end, and probably cut them up so they fit into jars better. I always just cut off the end where the bean was attached to the plant, and when I have a handful, I'll just cut those in half. I finally ended up investing in a pressure canner. All of my life I've just canned using the hot water bath method. That's what we did growing up. After washing the beans, they're ready to be put into jars. So I'm going to try something different here with these green beans, something I've never done before. My neighbor lady, Drusilla, was actually telling me about this. She said she adds a tablespoon of lemon juice and a teaspoon of salt to each jar and then fills the jar about halfway up with water. So here I'm just juicing all the lemons, and hopefully I'll have enough juice for a tablespoon per jar. So I think this first batch is finished, and I gotta say I was a little intimidated with this pressure in here. It's just something new for me. I was kind of paranoid. I thought, what if it would explode? I guess this thing here is your safety regulator, and that holds like 15 pounds. So if this gauge climbs up, past 15, it should let air or steam escape through there. And I noticed when this gauge was up even close to 15, some of it started bubbling out of here. So I guess we're safe with that, right? So these beans were pressure cooked for 20 minutes at 11 pounds, or around 11 to 12 pounds of pressure. And I turned the burner off and let it sit here. I actually went to do other things, and it said to just leave it set until this gauge is at 0 and this little thing here is flat. And now I can take this off, and sometimes steam will still escape this little opening, and you're supposed to let it set for an additional 10 minutes just to make sure there's no, trapped steam in here. And then you take the lid off and remove the beans. So 7 jars fit into the canner. So I've done 2 batches so far, still have 4 to go. Here I have them in here, and it says to put the same amount of water in even if you're only canning, a few jars like this. And that is 3 quarts. And you're supposed to leave this little regulator thing off until steam actually starts to come out of here, and then you put it on, and eventually this little button thing will pop up. That means it's starting to fill with pressure, and this gauge of course will start going up. And again, for green beans you want around 11 pounds for 20 minutes. This morning I'll also be working on blueberries, and I have in mind to make a pie filling and can that. I do that first, and then whatever is left over of the blueberries I'll freeze. I'm going to flash freeze the blueberries that I plan to put in the freezer. First, of course, I'm going to wash them, and then I'll put them on a towel to dry. I want to put them in a single layer on a baking sheet and then freeze them for an hour or more. And then once they're frozen, I'll be putting them in bags. So my blueberries are almost at a boiling point here, as you can hear. And I want to boil them for around 10 minutes. And as I'm waiting for that to finish, I'll get my other things ready. Here I'm mixing PermaFlow and water together. This will thicken my pie filling. I also have my jars and my sugar ready to go here. And it looks like the blueberries have started to boil. Boil those for 10 minutes. So I put the juice back into the large canner, and I want to bring it to a boil again before adding my PermaFlow mixture and sugar. So as I often do with recipes that we have here in this community, there's always way too much sugar in them, so I am taking this by half. The recipe asks for 8 cups, and I just put in 4. And then I'll taste it. If it still needs a little more sweetness, I'll add some more. So I'm going to cool down this mixture just a bit before putting it in the jars, because if I don't, it's actually going to seal without even being in a hot water bath, which back in the day, people actually used to do that, just sealed it with the liquid that was in the jar. We have a beautiful August morning here in Ohio, and I can't resist. I'm going to fill my jars out here on the deck. So as I'm preparing my jars here, I'm going to talk just a little bit about my thoughts on a pressure canner versus a hot water bath. I've gotten some controversy here on my channel when I used my audio got kind of bad as I was explaining my thoughts on, hot water bath versus pressure canner. So I'll just do a quick voiceover here. But basically what I'm saying is it all boils down to common sense. I mean, with either of these methods, I would always check my jars. If I get them, out of the basement, I open that lid and it's not tight enough, I wouldn't use the food in there, which that does happen every now and then. Not often, but it can. And I'm pretty sure it can happen with both of these methods. I think each person has to decide, what they want to do or what's best for them or what they feel best about. And of course, like I've mentioned before, growing up, we always used a hot water bath. And I'm not fully convinced on this pressure canning, to be honest. It just took a lot longer than I thought. I'm not sure that I really gained much time. By the time you have that canner cooled down and are able to take the lid off, I almost feel like the hot water bath might just be about the same or even quicker. But maybe it's just something I have to get used to. With anything, the more you do it, the easier it will be then. I put some old rusty rings in the bottom here to set my jars on. Of course, you can use something else too, as long as it doesn't sit directly on the bottom of the canner. My one jar barely fits in here, but as long as it has water coming up halfway, it should be okay. And normally I would just bring the water to just beneath the rings here, but being I have this extra little jar in here, I had to cover them to at least get it, halfway up through this one. So I boiled these for 15 minutes, and the nice thing about the hot water bath is I can just remove the lid and cool them off just a bit before setting them out on the counter. There's a few other things I've been working on canning wise. I didn't get a lot of video footage of all of them, but one of them is tomatoes. Did end up getting a nice harvest out of our own garden. In fact, they're still producing, but here I plan to juice them, washing them, and then I'll use my juicer to get the juice. There's of course different methods on how to get tomato juice, but here I'm using the system where the food is steamed and the juice is gathered in the center compartment, and from there you put it into a container. Here I'm blending and straining it. I don't want any seeds to be in my juice. I ended up using all of this juice from this batch of tomatoes for pizza sauce, and Mom kindly came one day and helped me. We ended up working with the pizza sauce, and we canned some peaches, and that same day we even put a little bit of corn in the freezer. It's just some leftover corn that we had planted some over at our cottages. We had all the fresh corn that we wanted from that garden, and ended up having 2 different batches of corn that I put in the freezer. These are baby gold peaches, and honestly I've never canned these myself. I usually go with Red Haven, but I've heard so many good things about these peaches, I decided to give it a shot. Supposedly they don't get as mushy as other peaches, once they're canned. For the syrup, I heated 4 parts water to 1 part sugar, stirred that around until the sugar was dissolved, and here I'm just putting it into the jars, covering the peaches. I had done another video on preserving corn a few years ago. I'll link that down below in the description box in case you want to check it out. It is a more in-depth video on how we go about to do it. It's such a good feeling to have some food on the shelves again and in the freezer. I love it, especially in the winter time when the markets don't have as much, fresh things to buy. And I will probably be sharing some more videos on some of the things that I'm canning. Fall is just an awesome time to work on, preserving some food. I have one more thing I want to add to this video. It's not canning related, but I'm going to throw it in here anyway. It's a dessert I used to make in the past. I haven't made it in a while, and it's super simple and delicious. And I know it would go great with that blueberry pie filling. I'll make sure to share the recipe down below in the description box in case you want to try it. I hope your day is going great. I can't believe we're officially in the fall season. We might as well embrace it, right? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.